Trita Parsi. He's the executive vice president of the Quincy Institute and the former president of the National Iranian American Council, and joins me live now from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I mean, the next 60 days are going to be crucial in creating this new order along the border. How can we expect the next 2 months to unfold if both sides presumably abide by the agreement?
On the one hand, it's obviously very positive to see that there is an agreement that ceases these indiscriminate attacks by Israel on Beirut and other Lebanese cities. On the other hand, it is difficult to see how this agreement will succeed, particularly mindful of the fact that the agreement essentially allows the Israelis to keep troops on Lebanese soil until the end of the 60th day deadline. If you take a look at what happened in 2006 with Resolution 1701, it took about 5 weeks for the Israelis to completely leave Lebanon. This time around, it would give them up to 8 weeks. And given the significant risk for some sort of an accident that could re-trigger the fighting, it doesn't seem to me to be particularly wise to leave such a long leeway for the Israelis to get out.
There are reports of assurances being made to Israel by the U.S. to carry out any operation in Lebanon when it deems necessary. What does this mean for Lebanon's sovereignty in the long run?
Well, it's interesting because the way Biden presented it at the White House today was very much focused on, emphasizing whatever freedoms Israel would have. But if you take a look at the text of the agreement, at least one of the versions that I've seen, it provides both sides with that type of a freedom. It essentially says that this agreement not to use any aggression does not negate either side's right for self-defense. So, of course, from Biden's perspective, he only wants to emphasize whatever the Israelis are getting because of his own political calculations. But at least the text of the agreement that I've seen seems to have a more balanced approach that essentially recognizes that neither side will lose their right to defend themselves if they are attacked.
Right, and I mean, the U.S. has been receiving a lot of criticism in terms of it being able to put a lot of pressure on Israel and Lebanese officials to reach some sort of a ceasefire agreement, but he's failed to do so for Gaza, especially looking at the death and devastation that we've seen over more than a year now. I mean, why has he been able to do it in Lebanon but not in Gaza?
I think it's more correct to say that he failed to try, because I think there is no clear evidence that he ever actually exercised any leverage over Israel to push for a ceasefire in that sense. All of the pressure was on the other side. If he had actually tried, I think he would have achieved it. The issue is that he never did try. And we have seen over and over again that it is not as if Biden is in opposition to what Israel has been doing throughout this entire period, including all of its indiscriminate attacks, but rather has been clearly in on it. Lebanon is a little bit different because Hezbollah is actually hurting Israel. Up until yesterday, they still shot in just one day about 320 rockets. So it's inflicting a cost on Israel, which increases Israel's own incentives for an agreement, which I think is a critical element in all of this.
Right, and I mean, in Biden's speech, he said that there's hope for a ceasefire deal in Gaza. Walk us through the U.S. position in terms of this particular ceasefire deal, and will things change with the incoming Trump administration in terms of the situation between Hezbollah and Israel?
I think the Trump administration's primary objective is to make sure that they do not inherit this type of a conflict, particularly one that is prone to further escalation that can drag the U.S. into it. And as a result, I think the Trump factor was actually a rather important one in terms of the different parties coming to an agreement here. It's not necessarily because of Biden, but it's because of wanting to avoid a scenario in which continued fighting actually could draw in Trump in a way that would be detrimental to either or to both sides here. So, but then again, what Trump will do afterwards remains completely unknown. The type of picks that he has chosen for his cabinet does not really reveal much of what his policy will be, because his policy preferences seems not to have guided his decisions on who to pick for various positions.
Right, and I mean, I have just over a minute left with you, but there's the Iran factor. I want to talk about this because it's an important one. They're a strong supporter of Hezbollah. What can we expect from them moving forward?
There's some indications that the Iranians actually encouraged Hezbollah to agree to this deal, and I think it's partly because the Iranians are themselves in a relatively bad situation. Secondly, they have sought a ceasefire, already since October last year. So it's not particularly strange that they would seek to have some sort of a ceasefire here. But I think it may also have been a signal to Trump, because I think they're trying to de-escalate tensions with the United States. They want some sort of a deal with Trump. They recognize that Trump, too, wants some sort of agreement. And they think that perhaps making a move of this kind, putting pressure on Hezbollah, going along with this agreement, is a way of paving some sort of a pathway for an agreement between the U.S. and Iran as well.
All right, Trita Parsi, thank you so much for joining me here on TRT World and our rolling coverage of this ceasefire deal. It was an honor having you on the show.
Thank you so much.